Hello, I'm John McNamara, the Information Architect for IBM Messaging, and today I am here with Adrian Preston. Hello, Adrian.
Hello, John.
Hello, buddy. Um, this is the second in a series of Hangouts designed to give the user introduction into technologies that we create in messaging. And one of the technology we create is something called Managed File Transfer. And Adrian is the architect of Managed File Transfer. Aren't you, Adrian?
That's correct, yes.
Adrian, could you give us a quick introduction as to what you are and the sorts of things you do at IBM?
Yep, no problem. So, as you mentioned, my name is Adrian Preston. I work as the architect for a product called MQ Managed File Transfer. Prior to that, the product was named File Transfer Edition, MQ File Transfer Edition. So my day-to-day job is really working with the development teams, taking on board customer feedback and understanding how we can feed that into future versions of the product.
Fantastic, buddy. So I guess the first question I'd ask them would be, I know what MQ is. What is Managed File Transfer?
Fantastic question. So I guess the easiest way to start answering that question is just to talk a little bit about file transfer in general. So at home, I have probably the worst file transfer setup in the world, in that I've got a machine which I run iTunes on, and that's separate from the machine which I've got my Sonus connected to. So if I want to play my music on the Sonus, I still have to get the MP3s across to the system that that Sonus is connected to. And the way I've done this is quite horrific, really. It's simply to stick a cron job on the Mac where my iTunes is, and every 30 minutes it just tries to FTP absolutely every single file out of the iTunes directory across to the Sonus, and it basically works most of the time. There's all sorts of reasons why it might go wrong. So if I have a network glitch, or I turn the Mac off at the wrong time, or whatever. But because getting an album that I bought on iTunes across to the Sonus isn't a particularly high value thing for me, it was fine. So that's sort of a file transfer problem, getting files from A to B. But obviously, if the file was actually worth something, so those were something like sales data at the end of the day, or represented some customer information I might have, then you would expect I would want to take a bit more of a rigorous approach to ensuring that the data was delivered. If there wasn't, I knew about the problem and could resolve it, and that I got a trail so that I could say, well, I definitely know the data was delivered the last 7 days, that kind of thing. So managed file transfer is taking, I guess, a lot of the things we commonly think about as file transfer, so like moving data between machines using perhaps open protocols, and is wrapping some management around that, so you can monitor it, you can govern it, you can resolve problems quickly if they occur. So that's the managed file transfer bit. Folding that back in with how that relates to MQ, managed file transfer exploits your existing MQ connectivity, so a network of queue managers for moving around file data. So it's, in addition to messages, you can now move files, and because it's built on top of MQ, you can also do transfers that move between files at one side and messages at the other, or messages at one side to files at the other. So you can interoperate with message-based apps as well.
Fantastic. So it sounds like the main difference then, for people who are familiar with MQ but not maybe MFT, is that MQ deals with messages, whereas MFT deals with actual files, and that's the main difference between the two.
Yeah, exactly right. So with MQ, it's messages in and out at both ends, and with MFT, it can be files in at one end and messages out, or more typically, I guess, files in at one end and files out at the other.
And so, what problems have you seen MFT solve out in the field?
I guess one of the situations we often find talking to people who are considering deploying MFT is that they've set up an MQ network, and that they're really happy about how that's helping them reliably connect together applications. But in parallel to that, they have, dare I say, it's something not that far away from my connectivity between my Mac and my Sonus. So some scripts wrapping a bit of FTP, and it sort of works well most of the time, but when things go wrong, they've unfortunately got a bit of an investment in the problem determination, and it takes longer than they like. So the kind of problems we see are really being able to say, well, you've got a ad hoc solution that you've scripted together. You've also got a parallel network for MQ messages. Why not collapse the two together and take advantage of the fact that you've got skills in MQ and that you could move these files around more reliably? So that might be applications that exist inside a data center that have just been written to use the file system. It's a very common pattern, writing out files to the file system. It's a very easy sort of point of integration between applications, and it's a very easy thing to actually go and architect and build. Another place where we're seeing quite a lot of traction is in kind of retail scenarios. So where you might have a point of sales device spitting out files representing transaction logs, and you'd like to be able to pull all of those back to headquarters so that you can process them, perhaps work out what restocking needs to take place. And that will be another example of where having a reliable way of being able to get that data from a remote site is quite valuable, because glitches in transferring that data can effectively mean no beans on the shelf, that kind of problem from a supply chain point of view.
Yeah, awesome. And you might have a fair point actually there. Which leads you into another question. Is there another big learning curve? Let's say you've already got MQ. If I've got MFT, are they fairly similar in the way they operate and how the user can experience them? Or is there another learning curve for the user to experience to get to understand MFT as well?
I think you've teed me up perfectly to answer that, John. So I mean, the way we designed this was very much with someone with MQ experience in mind. So it does add a couple of concepts on top of MQ that are new concepts, but all of the connectivity and the setup and the management aspects follow very much from what you already know about MQ if you have those skills.
Tip top, buddy. Well, Adrian, thank you. It's been an absolute joy to talk to you again, and great to see you. I'll put all the information in the notes on the Hangout, and especially if you want to get in contact with us about any questions about MFT, I'll put the information there as well. Cheers, buddy. It's been an absolute joy. Take care now.
Pleasure. Never a chore.